Avco, claiming to have exposed corrupt lending practices. The day of action saw one group of protesters raid an Avco office.
Today, the people decided they'd had enough. On street corners around Australia, the revolt had begun.
They must be the only financial organisation in the country that haven't noticed that interest rates have dropped over the last 2 years.
The Avco Finance company found itself under suburban attack, staff shell-shocked by the hit-and-run mission.
This is part of a new trend, and we will see more and more of these expressions of frustration when those who control finance are not reasonable in their dealings with people.
In Sydney, a report exposing Avco's lending practices was launched on the steps of the Supreme Court. Moments earlier, legal aid solicitors filed representative proceedings against Avco, which will affect tens of thousands of Avco borrowers.
The proceedings allege that Avco has systematically overcharged consumers for their insurance over many years.
Ex-customers are relieved their cries for help against Avco are now at least being taken seriously.
We borrowed $5,000 to buy a stereo unit, and it ended up costing us our home, just about our marriage.
Avco today have refused to comment. David Marshall, 10 News.
In Sydney, the trial of entrepreneur...
Angry protests in most cities. The company's been accused of charging extraordinarily high interest rates and using intimidation to collect some debts. Sally Pickering explains.
Staff at Avco's Footscray branch were unprepared for this morning's invasion.
Some of our customers have said it costs to deal with you, which is an arm and a leg.
In Sydney, the company also came under fire from disgruntled customers. One says Avco lent him money while he was unemployed and ultimately foreclosed on his house.
Thank you, Avco, for destroying our lives.
In a report detailing 70 cases, Avco is accused of charging up to 29% interest on some loans, of bullying customers into unnecessary insurance and using intimidation to collect debts. Consumer groups claim they resorted to today's protest because previous attempts to embarrass Avco into changing its practices have failed. Debbie Parker and her husband borrowed $5,000 from Avco but ran into trouble after falling a couple of months behind on the repayments.
And they were knocking on the door at 8 o'clock and 8:30 at night, turning around demanding money and turning around saying to my children, you know, where's your mum and dad? We want money.
In a statement late today, the company said it would address any criticisms found to be substantiated, but was confident its operational procedures complied with all relevant laws. Sally Pickering, National 9 News.
The Public Transport Union is warning of full-scale industrial...
...has used a dirty tricks campaign which could ruin some customers. Helen Wellings investigates.
Susie Steffian rues the day she became involved with Avco. A struggling single mother with 8 kids, she now faces losing her home to pay Avco back. Do you think they will get your house?
I'm not sure what's going to be happening, what's going on.
Did any help there? Susie was asked by a relative to be a guarantor for an Avco business loan of $10,000. He later defaulted, and Susie was pursued by Avco for the balance.
I didn't get the paper. I didn't have the chance to know what's in the paper.
Like a lot of Avco clients, Susie says she wasn't given the contract until the last minute and was pressured to sign without knowing what it said. She later discovered she was co-borrower, not guarantor. The loan was for $30,000, not $10,000, and the debt was secured over her family home. So what did Avco have to say?
It's Helen Wellings, Channel 7. Could I say the Managing Director's not prepared to talk to us?
No.
Why is that?
They just care not to. Ben Slade from New South Wales Legal Aid has been examining the company's lending practices and has filed proceedings against Avco in the Supreme Court to challenge the legality of thousands of their contracts.
People who have gone off to assist a boyfriend or to do something that they thought was relatively sensible in terms of consolidating debts, yet as a consequence they find that they're now losing their home, their family's breaking down, the world is falling apart.
Avco has to go! Avco has to go! Avco has to go!
Thank you, Avco, for destroying our lives. For your smooth and cunning fast talk has claimed yet another family.
Rallies like this against Avco have been enforced today around the nation. Customers, community workers and financial counsellors are saying it's time to publicly protest against the company's practices.
Some of the major concerns about Avco are excessive interest rates around 29% on secured personal loans, failure to adequately explain loans before customers sign, lending money to people who clearly can't repay, including insurance contracts in the loan agreement, which are often unwanted and useless, harassment and intimidation when customers default. Dennis Nilthorpe from the Australian Consumers Federation has been deluged with complaints.
I think their willingness to sell unemployment insurance to someone who was unemployed, knowing that they could never claim. They sold disability insurance to someone who had a disability and could never claim. They have constantly rung people who were in arrears at work and deliberately embarrassed them.
And then I was getting phone calls constantly at work. It got that bad, they didn't even page me for my phone calls, they just left messages because work was getting fed up with it. And then they're ringing me home, all hours of the night, day, and the way they spoke to my children was totally disgusting.
Avco also uses door-to-door sellers to push their loans. This is an example of a real incident.
I can't really afford it.
I tell you what I can give you. I can give you an interest-free loan on the vacuum cleaner. Now, this is just $1,200.
Yeah, but I've already got a vacuum cleaner.
But I can give you a $200 trade-in on your old vacuum cleaner on this one, which is top of the line. Now, that makes the loan only $1,000, interest-free.
Down the track, the customer receives a $3,000 Avco credit certificate to help with Christmas shopping. When she rings Avco, she's encouraged to refinance her existing loan.
Yeah, hi. I'm calling about a letter I received about a $3,000 pre-approved loan.
Oh, g'day, how are you?
I've still got $680 to pay on the interest-free loan.
But think how convenient it is for you to pay off that $680. Well, what we can do is put it into the new loan. So then all you have to do is pay off one easy repayment.
So a new loan for $3,680. Added on are insurances of $160. In total, what was an interest-free balance of $680 becomes a sum of $3,840 at a whopping 28.4% interest. Total repayments over 12 months on that are $4,474.
Like some people, they care to make money because they don't care about family.
I describe Avco as the sort of organisation that the Australian community could do without.
Next on Today Tonight, the young Melbourne designers ready to take on the world.
You know, to us, I couldn't imagine this in my wildest dreams.
They voiced their anger at Avco's high interest rate loans, which they say are pushing already desperate people into financial crisis. And in a related move, legal aid groups are taking on the finance giant in the Supreme Court for allegedly passing on millions of dollars of extra costs to clients. Philippa McDonald reports.
There's just so many memories. It's just eating at me. It's like cancer.
At the end of losing everything, I thought maybe there's a way out. But I've just come to realise that there's not.
Even if Robin and Arthur Cromer sell their house, it won't be enough to pay the loan they took out with Avco just a year ago.
At the time, you were paying 9.5% with the bank, yet you refinanced your house at like 14.5%.
Well, I think it was pure ignorance on my behalf. I knew it would be a higher interest rate, but I didn't know it would have been that high. So we were desperate.
Despite Robin earning only $200 a week and Arthur being unemployed, Avco said yes to the Cromers. When they fell into arrears within a month, Avco lent them another $6,000. On top, they had other small, unsecured loans with Avco at up to 29% interest.
Clients tell us that they have been to other finance companies and other banks who have told them, you cannot afford this loan. They've then gone to Avco, who have happily lent them the money. Not only lent them the money, but lent them the money at what we would say is very high interest rates.
Avco maintain their interest rates of up to 29%, only apply to small, high-risk, unsecured loans. Legal Aid and the Consumers Federation say the Cromer situation is common, and today released a report documenting 70 similar cases of people in financial crisis with Avco.
They can't just come and take the keys off you. There is a court procedure that they have to follow, and if they follow that procedure, it gives us a chance to argue that the contract was unfair. They cannot come and just take the keys away from you. Oh.
This company is unquestionably targeting the most vulnerable consumers in our society. Now, if you seek to make your profit out of those consumers, the very least you can do is make sure that you have high standards in terms of the provision of information and in terms of treating those who fall into difficulty with payments.
A mother of 4, Elizabeth Urell, fell into arrears on her Avco loans when she became unemployed and her husband was diagnosed with leukemia. Despite receiving default letters, Avco offered her further loans.
They sent us little money, imitation money, thousands of dollars or $3,000 in the mail all the time, and letters to say that we've got a good credit rating and we can borrow at any time.
Yet you couldn't afford to make the repayment.
No.
Avco charged almost 30% on loans to repay loans, and Mrs. Urell lost her home.
We also wanted to give you what some of our customers have said it costs to deal with you, which is an arm and a leg.
Today, those who say they've been victims of what they allege to be Avco's unfair lending practices were protesting around Australia. At the same time, Legal Aid signalled they'd be taking on Avco in the courts on a different front.
We may be talking about millions of dollars that have been overcharged.
In the New South Wales Supreme Court, Legal Aid began challenging hundreds of thousands of contracts signed between 1985 and 1995. Legal Aid claims the cost of stamp duty on insurance policies was passed on to the customer instead of being paid by an Avco company, Hallmark.
If we are right, Avco will also forfeit the right to charge interest on all of those contracts, and that would certainly result in many millions of dollars having to be returned.
Avco strenuously denies that it has in any way contravened the Credit Act and is defending the action. For the Cromers, their spiral into financial crisis has cost them their marriage. But they've taken their home off the market while they await further legal advice.
I can't really, put to words what I feel, the loss that we've both suffered.
And if you were to sum up the loss, what's all of this cost you?
Everything we've got.
Yep.
Philippa McDonald with that report. Avco's Managing Director Lewis Hawke refused the 7:30 report's request for an interview. However, in a faxed letter, Mr Hawke said Avco lent to 200,000 Australians each year. He drew attention to the high cost of servicing Avco's niche market, and he stressed Avco did pay attention to a customer's capacity to pay and conducted thorough discussions with them